All right, peace, peace, peace. Welcome to another episode of the Mixed Metals Podcast. I am your humble host, Quan, aka Hard to Find. Um, got some things to talk about this week. To just start off by saying J Electronica has dropped again since the last time we spoke, so that would bring it to a total of three new projects. Since what? The 19th was his birthday, so he's been dropping since then. Um, so yeah, I've been enjoying them. Um, uh, I will say after like listening more to all three of them, Leaflets is like becoming like my definite favorite of the three so far. And we apparently have 16 more projects to go. Um, I'm not sure which one I want to call an album or or not until like we finally get all of them. I think because just the way that they're coming out and the way that I've been hearing the process be explained is like the three that released were more like in real time. Um, and the ones that are coming now, like the ones that come after that third one, which was Mars something inhabited planet. Um, those that are coming after that are more like stuff that he had been working on and things like that. Because you did notice that, and if you listen, the three that came out were kind of like talking about stuff that was happening like right now, Um, and I will say that listening to the albums made me curious about the maybe not the UFO sightings that JLX was talking about, but that weird one that happened a couple weeks ago where we shot a Hellfire missile at it. We being the U.S. Military shot a Hellfire missile at it, and it didn't like distract the target off of his path at all, and it just kept going at the same speed. It didn't break speed or anything. And the Hellfire missile seemed to like also continue its path. So it was almost um as if they kind of went through each other. But you did see like pieces of the UFO or UAP as they're calling it now, unidentified aerial phenomena. Um, you did see pieces of it like break off, but other than that, it was smooth sailing. So that was strange. And I've looked at it on YouTube and tried to see like the people that were in court to talk about it, and they seem scared. That was a like a terrifying event. If I do say so myself, that was just something that you just like, what is happening? Um, and I may probably lose like whatever viewers I had of this episode. I'll probably lose them all by this time. But um, I think that if there are other life forms that are trying to get here, I would like for us to hear them out first, um, before trying to, you know, kill them and those kind of things. Um, I because I think that if you are able to get here from another planet or another galaxy or anything like that, then I don't think we have anything. I don't think we are equipped with anything that'll be able to withstand whatever they have, like a tenth of what they have. So I think we should hear them out first. If there are other life forms that are trying to get here and trying to, what, just let's hear their mission or whatever they got going on. Um, it's just yeah, it's so anyway, moving on. Let's talk about sports. So first off, there's a big game this weekend, Alabama versus Georgia. Again, I believe I spoke on it on the last episode, but I do think Alabama can escape Athens with a win. Um, but and I think that if I'm not mistaken, that's probably the biggest game of the weekend. Um, or maybe Illinois and USC if you're not a SEC fan. Um, but what I want to talk about is the readjusting of the SEC schedules. So the SEC has changed the format of the schedules moving forward for at least the next 4 years. And it just first off, at the beginning of this time where this current era where we went divisionless in the SEC, um, it was thought to be, I guess, possibly temporary. Um, they had no like end date in sight for it, but at the same time, they never did say that it was permanent. But it appears as though it is permanent as far as there no longer being divisions. Um, so that was one change, and then they announced earlier this season that we would have a 9 game SEC schedule, and so that was new. And then they have finally like uh adjusted the format, so we are losing a lot of annual games. Um, that's kind of like it's such a like a sad time, but I mean I get it. I understand why it's happening. Um, because out of conference wins didn't seem to mean as much for the SEC. So if we just play each other and we're gonna become the AFC North of college football probably here. And that's okay. The SEC is a conference that's going that the SEC has the greatest concentration of teams of great teams of good teams, I'll say, um, in the country, and it's not even close. In my opinion, I do understand that the Big Ten has won the past two national championships, um, but I don't think that takes away from the fact that, for one, I do believe that SEC is leading in the SEC versus Big Ten matchups this year. Um, and also, I just historically speaking, I don't. It's just not close. It's just not close. So you know, a 9 game schedule, a 9 game SEC schedule weighs more than definitely a 9 game ACC schedule, but I think if not now, then it will eventually weigh more than a 9 game Big Ten schedule. Um, and we still will see our SEC teams go against other Power Five teams every year. Um, so I think that the SEC is just trying to set itself up for having perhaps the most teams in the playoff. Um, I kind of think that was going to be the case anyway, but it is what it is. Whatever helps that, and whatever the commissioner and feels is necessary, then that's what's going to have to happen. So I'm seeing some headlines saying the future college football playoff format remains undecided after committee meeting. Um, I see some conversation about a 2018 field, which I think would be absolutely too much. I can't think of where. I mean, the college tournament, but I feel like it's kind of necessary for there to be like, I think it's a 68 team field in that. I just think it's more necessary because it's not as like people not getting tackled. Um, I just think you expand it to 28. Like there is no American Football League, I don't think, that has a 2018 field. That is ridiculous. I mean I can't even like high school doesn't have a 28 team field, nor does the NFL or the Canadian Football League or any other like professional football league has. I don't even think if you combine like for example the UFL, which I know only has like 8 teams, but um if you combine their playoff field with the NFL's playoff field, you still wouldn't get 28 teams. Um yeah, I'm not interested in seeing and apparently this is the Big Ten's idea. And there was also some talk about the Big Ten and the SEC kind of making like a super conference. And I think that would ruin college football straight up. And I mean, that would be four of the five teams that I like and that I pay attention to in the same conference, I guess. But I don't know. I would not be a fan of that at all. Um, so yeah, I think the Big Ten should just sit it out, sit out the like voicing their ideas in these meetings because it just doesn't sound like anything that would like at the end of the day these are students on the playing these games and I just don't want to see unnecessary games. I feel like that's an unnecessary amount of like games to it doesn't really I don't think that 28 that expanding it to 28 teams would help anything. I think I think 12 is a lot technically and I think 16 should be the absolute max. Like there should be no more than 16 teams in the playoffs for FBS college football. I just that's just my opinion. Um but anyway, moving on to the shifting of the schedule. Um let's see if I can find a clear um okay, so it's gonna be pretty repetitive here, but bear with me, please. It lists in an alphabetical order, so there's that. Okay, Alabama. For the next, I think 4 years. Yeah, over the next 4 years, we'll have Auburn, Tennessee, and Mississippi State as its permanent annual opponents. Um, and just know that from like when I say the team and then I say will have that's what I'm talking about. Arkansas has LSU, Texas, and Missouri. Auburn, obviously, Alabama, Georgia, and Vanderbilt. Georgia has Auburn, Florida, South Carolina. Florida has Georgia, Kentucky, South Carolina. Um, Kentucky has Florida, South Carolina, and Tennessee. LSU has Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Arkansas. I think I'm about halfway through it, or a little bit less than halfway. But let me just say that I guess I'll go back afterwards. Okay, Mississippi State has Alabama, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt. Missouri has Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. Oklahoma has Missouri, Ole Miss, and Texas. Um, which okay, never mind. Ole Miss has LSU, Mississippi State, and Oklahoma. South Carolina has Georgia, Florida, Kentucky. That's a hell of a lineup. Tennessee has Alabama, Kentucky, Vanderbilt. Texas has Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. I'm glad that Oklahoma and Texas A&M are staying there as that permanent or permanent for the moment rival. Texas A&M has LSU, Missouri, and Texas. Vanderbilt has Auburn, Mississippi State, and Tennessee. Um, and what I was gonna say is that even that is subject to change, but I do think that the core rivalries um, aren't going anywhere. So, for example, I think Alabama will always play Auburn and Tennessee no matter what. No matter what they change. I think Mississippi State would be the only one that would change if anything. Um, Same with Georgia. I think they'll always play Auburn. I think they'll always play Florida. Um, and so forth and so on. Hopefully, Texas always plays Texas A&M now that they're in the SEC, and they always play Oklahoma. Um, but yeah, it's a sad day, but it's also a joyous day. Just considering that I think this was the necessary step to make sure that more SEC schools get into the playoffs, or you know, I think that put the SEC in the best position to um have the most teams in the playoffs. Uh, just a real quick thing on the NBA. Ace Bailey, who I stopped paying attention to because of the whole fiasco that took place before he got drafted, has apparently parted ways with his manager, Omar Cooper. Um, and I think that that's the absolute best thing that could have happened um, for him. I don't think that that manager was out for the best interest in Ace. And so I'm glad to see that. Hopefully they can, they benefit from being around different people, the manager and Ace. Um, I'm happy that he, made an adult decision, because I know that that couldn't have been easy, but I think that that was the best decision for him. All right. Um, moving on to the NFL. We talked about the Bills beating the Dolphins on the last episode, so I won't get too much into that. In a surprising win, the Browns beat the Packers right after the Packers was talking about going undefeated. Um, the Browns have a solid defense, man. A really solid defense, and uh, unfortunately, that's all they have. They don't have anything offensively. They still are starting Joe Flacco. There's been no news of him being delegated to the bench or relegated, whichever one it is, to the bench. Um, I don't know. I do think the Packers will be better because of this. I think that was a necessary evil, if you will. Um, they only were able to score 10 points. Now the Browns were only able to score 13 points because of the Packers having that stout defense as well. Um, this past weekend was a weekend of blocked field goals. Yeah, I think the Browns blocked a field goal that would have tied the game. So that was interesting. The Colts beat the Titans. The Colts are 3-0. I'm still thinking that it's just a matter of time, waiting on that balloon to pop. Um, and a win against the Titans isn't too much to be proud of. Calvin Ridley can't seem to catch the ball. Um, Cam Ward has flashes of brilliance, but he's still a rookie at the end of the day. And I don't think that team is ready to be good yet. Um, they're a few pieces away. Uh, the Vikings handled the Bengals 48-10. And if I'm not mistaken, Jake Browning is continuing his interception extravaganza. Three picks last or 2 weeks ago, and then two picks last week. Um, I I don't know. They haven't really been able to get too much going. Um, Jamar Chase 5 receptions for 50 yards. T Higgins 1 reception for 15 yards. Um, yeah, just a very under underwhelming day for the Bengals, and an extraordinary day for the Vikings. Uh, Carson Wentz 14 for 20 for 173 yards, but two touchdowns. Uh, they eventually put Max Brosmer, who I've never heard of, in the game because I guess it got so out of hand. Um, Justin Jefferson did not score a touchdown, but he had 5 receptions for 75 yards. TJ Hawkinson, who was on my fantasy team but was on my bench, 5 receptions for 49 yards and one touchdown. That definitely could have helped me out. Uh, let's move on to the next game. Steelers beat the Patriots in a very ugly game. The Steelers did force 5 turnovers, but it's kind of a phony stat, if you will. I don't think that it's still like they playing the Patriots at the end of the day. I think the Patriots suck for lack of a better word, and I think that they are in for a very long season. So I wouldn't I wouldn't throw any confetti just yet for the Steelers, but Aaron Rodgers is my guy. They play the Vikings this week in London, I believe. That's going to be a tough game. That defense, like the schemes that defense has, is are endless. And it seems like they got an answer for whatever quarterback comes, even if Aaron Rodgers wasn't to play, and it would be their backup. I feel like they could chalk up a scheme for him. Um, Eagles beat the Rams in the game where they blocked 2 field goals. Um, and the Eagles looked pitiful in the first half. Uh, with the score was 19-7, but they unlocked something and were able to score 26 points in the second half. Um, and get a come from behind victory. They started throwing more in the second half, and of course that blocked field goal was what ended the game. But I wouldn't say that's what won the game. That they was just able they turned into the Eagles in that second half, more or less. Buccaneers did beat the Jets on I think a game-winning field goal. Uh, that was a tough game for Tampa Bay. That included even more injuries. The Buccaneers are 3-0, so it's good that they were able to get the wins that they have so far, and I think that a lot more wins are in their future. But it's going to be tough with given all the injuries that are piling up, and that's the same for my 49ers, which we'll get to later. Uh, the Commanders did end up whooping the Raiders. Marcus Mariota at quarterback because Jaden Daniels was injured. Jaden Daniels, by the way, does say that he feels good, but it's up to the coach on whether or not he'll play this upcoming week. Let's just recap these stats real quick. Uh, Geno Smith, 19 for 29, 289 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was sacked 5 times for 28 yards. Marcus Mariota, 15 to 21, 207 yards, 1 touchdown. Um, so he had 1 passing touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown. Uh, Luke McCaffrey, shout out to him. 3 receptions, 56 yards for 1 touchdown. Um, so yeah, I think the Raiders are done. Basically, I think they're done. Um, the Panthers beat the hell out of the Falcons in a game that I told my Falcons friends about. Um, I mean, Bryce Young didn't even do much. It was just that they absolutely dominated the Falcons. Um, and any divisional game in any division could go either way. So you can't be surprised there. But just in the way that they won, I think they had a pick six. Michael Penix looked in over his head in this game. Um, hopefully he looks like that in San Francisco, but we'll see. The Jaguars beat the Texans in a very like okay game, I guess. Brian Thomas, who was also on my fantasy team, uh, had a few drops or just missed passes. He caught 2 of his 6 targets for 55 yards. With the first reception was only 9 yards, or yeah, 9 yards, and he got a 46-yard reception towards the end of the game. Um, Trevor Lawrence 20 of 40 for 222 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Um, Trevor Lawrence will give the ball to the other team. If he don't do anything else, he will get a ball to the other team. Uh, Chargers beat the Broncos 3-0. overall on the season and 3-0 in their division. That's impressive. And Justin Herbert with an MVP throw to kind of bring them back and win that game. Keenan Allen is kind of turning back the clock. Uh, let's see how he's doing on the season. Yeah, 3 touchdowns in 3 games, um, on 19 receptions, 194 yards, and 10.2 yards per reception. Um, he's looking a lot like the old Keenan Allen. Now he is 33, and I do think that I'm glad that I brought that up because I wanted to mention the fact that this seems to be the era of resurgence for athletes. You think about Tom Brady playing until he was 43 or something like that, 44 maybe, or possibly 45. I'm not sure. Um, you think about Aaron Rodgers being, I think he's turning 42 this year. Uh, you think about Sam Darnold, going from team to team, but finally finding success with the Vikings. You think about Geno Smith also going from team to team and finding success with the Seahawks. Um, Keenan Allen spending 1 year with the Bears and that year not going great, but so far, so he's averaging a touchdown per game. Um, Pretty sure he didn't do that in Chicago. So I just think I'm it's a the era of resurgence and uh longevity. I think that the technology being where it is nowadays and the access that these athletes have is showing itself is benefiting these athletes for the better. Um and so I'm glad to see that, man. I'm glad to see people being able to play for at least almost as long as they want to. Um, the Seahawks beat the hell out of the Saints, 44-13. Saints worst team in football. Um, yeah, I don't really have anything to say about that. Uh, Bears beat the Cowboys um, for their first win of the season, the first win of Ben Johnson's career. Caleb had a field day. He threw for 4 touchdowns. Dak Prescott, 31 of 40, 251 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Caleb, 19 of 28, 298 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, no sacks. That was his first time not being sacked since his USC days, if I'm not mistaken. That's astonishing. It's almost like they need a pass rusher or something out there in Dallas. Uh, 49ers with a gutsy um, comeback win against the Cardinals. Even after safety, they did come back to win 16-15. Um, Mac Jones led a hell of a end of game drive. Um, I hate that we are so injury plagued. We've been the 49ers is just unbelievable. Every season it seems like we lose somebody like of like utmost significance. This year having it be Nick Bosa is devastating. I do think Robert Saleh is doing a hell of a job given the youth that he has on defense, but Nick Bosa is a linchpin in this defense, and it's going to be a tough loss to overcome. Um, I'm glad that we are 3-0 so far, and that defense does seem to be um kind of getting better each week. I mean, allowing only 15 points, and all of those points were field goals, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, 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 there was a touchdown and a safety. Uh, let's see, was there a touchdown? Yes, Trey McBride with his 1 yard pass from Kyler Murray. So I mean, only allowing one touchdown. Uh, and the same could kind of be said for Arizona, but Arizona's defense looks good so far as well. But Yeah, man. I wish a speedy recovery for Nick Bosa, but it's just sad, man. We still have Brock Purdy out. I don't know if he'll be back this week or not against Jacksonville. Um, Ayuk is still out. Jawan Jennings is out. Uh, Chris McCaffrey is getting a lot of carries. That worries me a little bit. I'm just I don't know who the team doctors are and who the health staff is, but I think some changes need to be made. The Chiefs beat the Giants in a duh kind of game. There's no way that the game should have even been close, honestly. But it is what it is. The Lions did beat the Ravens on Monday night. Um, the Ravens defense, especially their run defense, looks bad. Looks absolutely bad right now. I had the Ravens defense uh in my fantasy, and it was because of how they finished last season, which is just so far not how they have started this season. And of course, things can get better because it did last year. They started out awful, but became like one of the top 5 or 6 defenses in the league last season. By the end of the season, so we'll see what happens. But I don't have any interest in picking them back up. Let's go with the WNBA. In the playoffs. Last night, the Mercury beat the Lynx. That series is tied 1-1. I do think that the second round of the WNBA playoffs is the best of 5. Um, the Aces handled the Fever 90 to 68. Shout out to Asia Wilson becoming the first 4-time league MVP. Um, well deserved. And I love to see her, dominate, and continue to grow the game and get them to where they need to be on a respect level, on a viewership level. Um, I'm looking forward to her continue to dominate. I don't know how old Asia Wilson is. Let's see. Uh, Jesus Christ, you gotta go through so much to get to the scores. Asia Wilson is 29, so I mean, I think she still has probably few more good years of like just straight up dominance. She could probably win at least one more MVP. Um, she's actually in like the beginning of her prime, so you know that's at that remains to be seen. Of course, you got other great players coming up, but I just nobody is touching Asia right now, and you just love to see that. Uh, let's talk about the MLB for a second. Like I said, we being the Cardinals are all but eliminated. Um, still in it technically somehow, but I don't see it. Or I'll be hopeful. It can happen. It can definitely happen, but I don't know. We have won 3 straight, I believe. So and 6-4 in our last 10, which isn't the greatest, but it is what it is. The Braves are 9-1 in their last 10 games, which is unbelievable considering the season that they've had. Um, but so far in the wild card race, not so far, I guess, still remaining in the wild card race in the National League are the Mets, the Reds, the Diamondbacks, the Cardinals, the Marlins, and the Giants. So like I said, I mean, it can happen. A lot of things will have to fall into place for the Cardinals to make the playoffs, but stranger things have happened, but I just at this point I just want him to be over 500 or at 500 at least. Um, I do believe that is about it. Um, I think I went over him last on the last episode. The only new music has been Jay Elect. Uh, I still haven't watched any of the Fashion Week stuff. Um, there was a PlayStation State of Play today, on the 24th, if you're watching. Um, and Wolverine got a release window announced. That's probably the thing that I'm most excited about from the showcase. Uh, it's coming out fall of 2026. Insomniac, the people at Insomniac really don't sleep. The game looks great. I can't wait to play it. Wolverine being one of my favorites and one of my favorite superheroes in general, but my second favorite in Marvel. Um, so we will have gotten at least one great game from all of my favorite superheroes except for Superman. Uh, and I think it can happen. Um, my idea of a great Superman game is where you kind of like each power that you learn, you have like a separate chapter for it. And then like towards the end, like you have to like know how to use all of them. But I mean, that's just, of course, that's just like a little rough draft. But I think that a great Superman is just dying to be made. Superman game is dying to be made. Um, yeah, I think especially with like the movie being as successful as it was this year, and um the second movie in the James Gunn universe, the second Superman movie in the James Gunn universe coming out in 2027, which is pretty soon. Um, all things considered, I think that I think we'll get some attention and some hype for a Superman game here pretty soon. Um, I do believe that is all I have for you this time. Uh, I'll probably be back at the end of the week to recap Thursday night football and the Georgia Alabama game will definitely determine my mood for next week's episode or later on this week's episode. Um, but until next time, I love you all and peace.